So you're new to the 3D printing world and you don't know much and you just heard that there's different types of filaments. I'm going to describe to you guys 4 main types of filaments that we sell at 3D Printing Store and why you would want each one. First things first, we have PLA, ABS, PETG, and then TPU. I'm going to describe to you guys what they are and what they're used for. PLA stands for polylactic acid, which is a polyester derived from renewable biomass, also known as plant-based. PLA is the most friendly and most forgiving filament to print with, as it doesn't need any tips and tricks to use. You can use hairspray to help the print stick to the bed, and your printing settings are normal. Now, when I say normal, I mean your nozzle can be 195 degrees and your bed actually doesn't need to be heated at all for PLA. However, you can heat up the bed, it will help, it won't hurt you at all. We print with PLA, we usually put the bed on about 40 degrees and then we give it a go. Spray some hairspray on the bed and you're on your way. PLA is really nice because it is the best filament for beginners, because it is the least difficult filament to print with. You can print PLA on any kind of 3D printer or FDM printer that you have, and PLA usually has a really nice finish depending on the color and brand that you buy. Now, speaking of brands really quick, we do have 2 brands in our store. We have Cron and we have Wanhao. Cron is our home brand. I do like Wanhao, however, because they do have a nicer variety of each and every color. Cron prints quite shiny and Wanhao prints more matte or pastel colors. So depending on what your preference is, kind of going to be which one you choose. Moving on to ABS, the nightmare of 3D printers, and I'm going to tell you now why. I'm going to try and say what this thing is. Please forgive me if I say it or pronounce it incorrectly. ABS stands for acrylonitrile butadiene styrene, which is an opaque thermoplastic, which means that it is much stronger than PLA, but it is the most difficult to print with. Now, what makes it difficult? Why is it difficult? I've never printed with ABS before. Help! ABS is very temperature sensitive. That's why you get things like enclosed printers or enclosures for 3D printers. Now, why is it so sensitive? What happens when it gets sensitive? If your printer is standing in front of you right here now and you have a window open, it's going to fail. If you have a door open, it's going to fail. If you look at it, it's going to fail. We have done a video more in depth about ABS. If you guys want to check that out, subscribe to our YouTube. I'd really appreciate it there. It lets me know that you're enjoying these videos. ABS, you can tell immediately when it's going to fail, because the biggest thing that you can see if it's an ABS print is that the bottom is lifting off of the bed. So if your bed is here and you're printing a square, for example, the one corner will be lifting. Another thing that happens is actually your layers split halfway through your prints. Now, why does it do that? ABS, when it's busy printing, it expands, and then while it's cooling down, it slowly shrinks. When it gets a sudden temperature drop or temperature rise, but mostly a temperature drop, what happens is that it cools down and shrinks very quickly, and it doesn't have a chance to adhere to the previous layer. So it separates. And that is the biggest pain about printing with ABS. One of the things that you can do to help ABS stick to your bed is use ABS juice. Now, what is ABS juice? There are thousands of videos on YouTube of how to make it, what it is, but essentially you take acetone and ABS pellets. If you don't have ABS pellets, you can actually use your strand of filament from your ABS roll, and you just cut it up into little spots about 1 millimeter wide, even bigger, it's okay, and you mix those pellets with acetone in a bottle. You're going to start making a juice as it mixes. The ABS is going to dissolve into the acetone and it makes a glue. ABS likes to stick to ABS, so let's use ABS for some glue. How you mix this is completely up to you. You can make it thick, you can make it watery. Doesn't really matter there, but the thicker you make it, the stronger it's going to be. We like to tell our customers, if you want to get a nice sweet spot for your mixture, try and get the consistency of milk. So not as watery as water and not as thick as a milkshake, but you're going to find your sweet spot there. It's trial and error. If you throw in too much ABS into the acetone, add more acetone. If you throw in too much acetone, add more ABS. Shake it up, stir it up until it's all done. For your temperatures of your 3D printer for printing with ABS, I suggest a nozzle temperature of 240 degrees and a bed temperature of 80 degrees. Now remember, you guys are going to have to find your temperatures. It's usually a difference of 10 degrees on either side. I'm giving you guys the middleman and you can work up and down from there. Most 3D printers filaments, what happens is that it gives you a temperature bracket. It'll say for PLA between 190 and 205, for example. So we like to say 195 or 200. You can work down from there, you can work up from there, but that is the middle sweet spot that you want to be at. Up next we have PETG. Now I personally like PETG over ABS. Why is that? Because it gives you the strength of ABS, but it's not such a pain in the to print with. Once again, with the terrible pronunciations, PETG stands for polyethylene terephthalate glycol, which is a thermoplastic polyester that provides chemical resistance and durability. The one bad thing about printing with PETG is that it is really best friends with stringing. Now what is stringing? If you're moving between two parts of a print or you're printing two things at once and it's moving between the two, those fine hairs or like a spider web texture, that is stringing. Now you can combat this with your retraction settings. You're going to have to play around with your retraction settings. I'm not going to be able to tell you guys because every printer is different, but you can change your retraction speed and your retraction distance. This is the settings that when your printer wants to move from one spot to the other without printing, it is the setting that pulls that filament back outside of the nozzle, back into the nozzle while it moves and then pushes back to start printing again. That is retraction, and those settings of speed and distance are going to be key to you combating stringing. I personally like PETG. It's better in the sun. It takes about 90 degrees for it to start getting malleable. PETG, if you want a strong print, is my absolute recommendation. I do not recommend ABS because PETG has made it redundant because it's so much easier to print with. Lastly, we have TPU. Now, what is TPU? TPU is a fancy way of saying flexible filament. This is really nice for stuff like spacers or phone covers, things like that. People used to stay away from TPU because it used to be very difficult to print with. In the terms of you never got a nice finish of your walls and you never really were able to print it unless you had a direct drive or a fantastic settings on your 3D printer. Now, Wanhao has actually brought out a new semi-flex, which is actually a mixture of TPU with PLA. So it is not as flexible, but as you can see over here, it looks fantastic. And the best part about it is that you can use normal PLA settings. You don't have to print slower and you don't have to fiddle with settings anymore. Just throw on standard PLA settings. Alright guys, I hope you have a better understanding on flexible filaments. I hope you guys have a better understanding on strong filaments, and I hope you have a better understanding of PLA filaments. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If it was educational for you or if it did help, please leave a comment and let me know. If you want to see any other videos in the future, drop a comment below, let me know what you want to see. And if you want to check out our social media, which has a lot of short videos on information like this and fun stuff that we're doing, go check out our social media. They're linked down at the bottom. I hope you guys enjoy what you see there. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next week.